Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something that sounds a bit wild on the surface.
Just a bit.
Okay, maybe completely wild. We're taking two things, iconic sandwiches and vintage Tamiya radio-controlled car kits, and arguing they actually share, like, the same blueprint.
Yeah, the same DNA in terms of design, how they fit into culture, even nostalgia. It's kind of the hidden story of things we love, things that are just well made.
Exactly. Think about the feeling, the whole sensory thing. That smell of grilled cheese cooking, it's comfort, right?
Yeah.
Security, warmth. It hits you on a basic level.
It really does. And then on the other hand, you've got that smell when you open up an old Tamiya box.
Oh, yeah. That specific plastic and rubber smell.
Oh.
It's not food. It's industrial almost.
Yeah.
But it's just as nostalgic.
Definitely. And it's a promise, isn't it? A promise of putting something together, figuring out the mechanics, hours of just focused joy.
It's the same kind of deep satisfaction, I think. Just one you eat, the other you build.
So that's the mission for this deep dive. We want to uncover those shared principles. You know, connecting simple comfort food sandwich craft, let's call it, with this complex mechanical art from Tamiya's golden age.
We're going to track this analogy, moving from the absolute basics, the foundational stuff, all the way up to the crazy, expensive models that everyone dreamed about.
Finding that link between, say, a Monte Cristo, that deep-fried marvel, and the Tamiya Avante, which was just ridiculously ambitious engineering.
Or maybe the Sloppy Joe, pure messy fun,
Yep.
and the Lunchbox fan, which, let's be honest, was designed to pop wheelies and crash entertainingly.
Exactly. So we'll go through it thematically. We'll start with the foundational icons, then the people's champions, the brawlers.
The contenders with their rivalries, the high-tech technocrats, and finally, the fusions where different ideas collide. Okay, let's dig into this. All right, segment one. Foundational icons. Makes sense to start here. These are the game changers, right? The ones that basically wrote the rule book for everything that came after.
Absolutely. The Genesis block, like you said in the intro, they set the language, the expectations for the whole category.
And the pairing here is, well, it's huge. Two things that cause massive shifts. One in society and economics, the other in technology.
That's right. We're talking about the peanut butter and jelly sandwich
Yeah.
and the Tamiya Sand Scorcher from 1979.
Okay, the PB&J. Most of us think of it as, super simple kid food. But the origin story is actually kind of surprising.
It is. The first time it shows up in print, 1901, Boston Cooking School magazine, it wasn't humble at all.
No. What was it then?
It was described as this delicate little tea sandwich made with something called peanut paste, not quite peanut butter yet, and currant jelly, served in high society circles. Fancy stuff.
Wow. So how did it become, well, the PB&J?
American industrialization, basically. Two big things happen. First, a guy named Joseph Rosefield figured out how to make peanut butter stable in 1922, so it wouldn't separate. That became Skippy later on, huge for shelf life.
Okay, shelf-stable peanut butter. Makes
Yeah.
sense. And the second thing,
Mass-produced, pre-sliced bread. Suddenly you had cheap bread and peanut butter that lasted forever. That's what made it democratic.
so it wasn't just invented, it was industrialized into existence almost.
Pretty much. It became super important during the Great Depression, cheap, filling calories. And then WWII really cemented it. Standard ration for soldiers because it was nutritious and lasted ages. It's like an edible piece of industrial history.
That's fascinating. Okay, so how does the Sand Scorcher parallel that? It wasn't about being cheap, was it?
No, quite the opposite. The Sand Scorcher was Tamiya throwing down the gauntlet. Before 79, RC cars were mostly, toys, plastic, simple.
Right.
The Sand Scorcher, launched December 15th, 1979, basically created the hobby-grade RC market. It was Tamiya saying, we're not making toys, we're making scale models that work.
So what made it hobby grade? What was the specific engineering leap?
It was all about realism and quality. First off, materials. Lots of metal. Die-cast aluminum chassis parts, aluminum suspension arms, metal gearbox housing, real heft, real durability.
Okay, metal parts. What else?
The suspension was a faithful scale replica of a real VW Beetle suspension. That was huge for realism. But the killer app, the real tech revolution, was the oil-filled shock absorbers.
Wait, oil-filled shocks. Why was that such a big deal back then?
Well, before that, RC cars mostly used friction dampers, just like plastic tubes rubbing together. Pretty crude, didn't really dampen impacts much. The cars would just bounce around.
Gotcha.
Oil-filled shocks use hydraulic fluid to absorb energy smoothly. It meant the Sand Scorcher could handle bumps and jumps properly, like a real off-road vehicle. It was a pro-level feature trickling down.
And they even thought about protecting the electronics, didn't they? that clear box.
Yeah, a waterproof radio box, so you could actually drive it through puddles or on the beach without frying your expensive radio gear. That was revolutionary thinking. Plus, a super detailed hard plastic body, not flimsy Lexan, it just screamed quality.
Okay, so let's tie it together. The PB&J becomes this cultural cornerstone through mass production, making it incredibly accessible and reliable.
Right. Driven by industry.
While the Sand Scorcher establishes the modern RC hobby through uncompromising quality and advanced engineering, making it aspirational and valuable.
Exactly. One democratized lunch, the other created a high-end hobby. But both are the absolute starting point, the reference point for everything after.
They really did define the grammar, like you said. You can't talk about RC cars without acknowledging the Sand Scorcher, just like you can't imagine American childhood without the PB&J.
Okay, so if the Sand Scorcher and PB&J laid the foundation, our next category is about bringing people in. The people's champions.
Right, the ones that were super popular, affordable, easy to get started with. The gateway drugs, basically, to a lifelong obsession.
Precisely. Low cost, simple build, but tons of satisfaction. And our first pairing here is just elemental simplicity. The grilled cheese sandwich and the Tamiya grasshopper from 1984.
The grilled cheese, another one tied to industrial progress, right? Sliced bread and processed cheese slices.
Yep.
Kraft singles hit the market around 1916. Sliced bread becomes common in the 20s. Put them together, add heat, boom. Like the PB&J, it really took off during the Depression and WWII because it was cheap and easy.
And it's often the first thing kids learn to cook, isn't it? Like the first hot meal they can make themselves. Simple, satisfying, hard to totally screw up.
Exactly that feeling. And Tamiya absolutely nailed that same philosophy with the grasshopper. It was explicitly designed as the entry-level kit when it came out in May '84.
How so? What made it entry level?
Super simple design. It had this tough plastic bathtub chassis, just one main piece. The instructions were really clear, easy to follow, and crucially, it used a different motor.
Oh, yeah, the outline mentioned a 380 motor, not the usual 540. What's the difference there, functionally?
The 380 is smaller and way less powerful than the 540 motor that was becoming standard in hobby kits. But that wasn't a bug, it was a feature for beginners.
It meant the grasshopper was slower, much easier to control, less likely to crash immediately. Plus, it made the battery last longer. It was tough, forgiving, and gave you that crucial, successful first build and drive.
That makes perfect sense. So the link is really that low barrier to entry, getting that first win, whether it's making a decent grilled cheese or building an RC car that actually runs.
Yeah, that positive first experience hooks you. It builds confidence, sparks that enthusiasm. Tamiya sold a ton of grasshoppers. It brought a whole generation into the hobby, just like Kraft singles brought a generation to grilled cheese.
But okay, once you've had that first taste, you start wanting, right, a bit more performance.
Always. You master the basics, you want the next step up. And that leads us perfectly to the iconic upgrade pairing, the BLT and the Tamiya Hornet, which came out just a few months after the Grasshopper in '84.
The BLT, simple but requires good execution. Probably came from the club sandwich, right? Just stripped down.
Seems likely, yeah. And its popularity really soared when supermarkets started providing decent tomatoes and lettuce year-round after the war. It's all about balance, crispy bacon, cool lettuce, juicy tomato, the right amount of mayo. Simple, but perfection requires quality ingredients working together.
Okay, so how does the Hornet mirror that iconic upgrade idea?
Well, Tamiya released it in October 1984, hot on the heels of the Grasshopper, and it used the same basic chassis. That kept the cost down and the simplicity people liked, but they made two critical upgrades.
The motor, right? They put the bigger one in.
Exactly. They swapped the beginner-friendly 380 motor for the standard, much more powerful RS 540. Instantly, the Hornet was way faster, way more exciting.
Big jump in speed. What was the other upgrade?
Suspension. Remember how the Grasshopper had simple friction dampers like the old days? The Hornet got proper oil-filled shock absorbers, but just on the rear.
Ah, so applying that Sand Scorcher tech. Better handling to go with the better speed.
Precisely. It meant the Hornet wasn't just faster, it could actually handle bumps and jumps much better, especially at the back where the power was going down. It just felt more capable.
So it found that sweet spot. Still affordable and relatively simple because of the shared chassis, but with enough performance upgrades to feel like a real step up.
Totally. It hit the perfect balance of accessibility and performance. It became the benchmark, probably Tamiya's best-selling RC car ever. Just like the BLT became the benchmark simple but perfect sandwich by refining what came before, The Hornet became the definitive affordable buggy by strategically upgrading the Grasshopper.
Okay, shifting gears now. We're moving away from accessibility and refinement and into, well, glorious chaos. The brawlers.
Yeah, these are the icons of pure, messy fun. Personality over precision. Their flaws are kind of the whole point.
And the first pairing here feels almost too perfect. The Sloppy Joe and the Tamiya lunchbox from 1987.
It's childhood chaos embodied, right?
Absolutely, the Sloppy Joe. Nobody even agrees where it started. Havana, Sioux City, who knows?
Yeah.
But it definitely blew up after the Depression as a cheap way to make ground meat go further.
And the name says it all. It's supposed to be messy, loose meat, sauce everywhere. You needed napkins, lots of napkins. Canned sauces like Manwich just cemented that whole idea. It's pure, unpretentious kid fuel.
So how does the lunchbox capture that same spirit? It's that bright yellow van, right?
Yeah, this awesome, slightly absurd 80s Dodge van body sitting way too high on massive monster truck tires. It used a simple chassis called the CW-U01, but the design combination, functionally, it was kind of a beautiful disaster.
How so? What was wrong with it?
Nothing wrong if you wanted pure fun.
Yeah.
But the short wheelbase, the huge tires, the really high center of gravity, it made it incredibly unstable.
Famous for?
Wheelies.
Instantly famous for wheelies. Just blip the throttle and the front wheels lift right off the ground. It flips over easily, doesn't handle corners well at all. If you wanted to race competitively, you'd pick literally anything else. Huh. And that's the link, isn't it? Both the sandwich and the van totally reject performance or refinement. It's all about entertainment value.
Exactly. The messiness of the Sloppy Joe, the instability of the lunchbox, those aren't bugs, they're features. That's what makes them fun and memorable.
They're designed to make you smile, maybe laugh out loud. Zero seriousness involved.
Pure, unadulterated fun, which actually leads us to our next brawler pair. But this time, it's less about messy fun and more about sheer, overwhelming power.
Okay, bring on the heavyweights.
We're talking the Italian beef sandwich and the Tamiya Clodbuster, also from 1987. This is where more is more becomes the whole philosophy.
The Italian beef, a Chicago legend, started in Italian immigrant kitchens, right? Using cheaper cuts of beef.
Yeah, born out of necessity, like a lot of great food. Slow roasting, less tender cuts in this amazing spicy broth until they were super tender.
And the defining thing is the juice, the au juice. Ordering it dipped or wet, it's intense. Heavy, savory, often with that spicy giardiniera pickle mix on top. It's a commitment.
A glorious, messy commitment. And the Clodbuster is the RC equivalent of that sensory overload. Tamiya's first real monster truck. An absolute beast. Engineered for pure spectacle.
What made the Clodbuster such a monster, technically speaking?
Okay, get this. It had four-wheel drive, naturally, but it also had four-wheel steering, so it could turn really tightly despite its size. And the killer feature, 2 motors.
2, like one for the front and one for the back.
Exactly. A powerful 540 motor mounted directly on each axle. That meant incredible torque, incredible climbing ability. It was designed for backyard bashing, jumping over stuff, crawling over obstacles, just pure brute force fun.
Wow. So the connection is that more is more idea. The Italian beef piles on the meat, the juice, the spice. The Clodbuster piles on the motors, the steering, the size.
Precisely. The satisfaction comes from the overwhelming presence. The dripping, intense flavor of the beef, or the raw power and spectacle of the Clodbuster crushing terrain. They both have this really strong, unapologetic identity. Chicago toughness meets 80s monster truck mania.
They don't ask for permission, they just dominate.
Exactly. Sheer, raw presence.
All right, moving into a really interesting category now.
Wow.
The contenders. These are the ones where you get, like, fierce debates, regional pride, contested histories.
Yeah, and often it revolves around subtle differences, but differences that people feel really strongly about. It's about variations on a theme and loyalty to your variation.
And for the Tamiya side, the
Yeah.
shared theme, the foundation, is a specific chassis, right?
That's right. It's the ORV platform off-road vehicle. That distinctive red ABS plastic space frame chassis that first showed up with the Tamiya Frog in 1983. Tamiya brilliantly used this one core chassis to build several different, really popular models. It's kind of like how different regions take a basic sandwich concept and make it their own.
Okay, so first example. Cuban sandwich versus Tamiya Blackfoot from 1986. Let's start with the Cuban. The big fight is Tampa versus Miami, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's legendary. They mostly agree on the core ingredients. Ham, roast pork, Swiss cheese, pickles, mustard, all pressed hot on Cuban bread. Delicious. But the battle line is drawn over one single ingredient, Genoa salami. Tampa puts it in, apparently because of the city's Italian immigrant history. Miami leaves it out, insists it's not traditional. People get really worked up about it. It's about authenticity, cultural ownership.
Okay, so how does the Blackfoot fit in? It uses that same red ORV chassis.
Exactly, shared platform. But it had its own distinct identity with that realistic Ford F-150 pickup truck body. Mechanically, though, it was the simpler, maybe more basic version built on that chassis, specifically the suspension.
What about the suspension?
It used those simple friction dampers we talked about with the Grasshopper, just plastic parts rubbing, cheap, tough, but bouncy. Not much real damping.
Ah, okay. So compared to something else on the same chassis.
Right, so you have this core platform, but one version, the Blackfoot, uses the simpler, maybe purer, but less refined suspension. Just like one city's Cuban sandwich uses that one extra debated ingredient.
So the salami is like the friction dampers, a single component difference that defines two different schools of thought tied to identity or maybe cost versus performance.
Exactly. Purity versus refinement, Tampa versus Miami, friction versus oil shocks. It's about those key differentiators.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so staying with that ORV chassis, what's next? The Reuben.
The Reuben, yeah. And its Tamiya counterpart, the Monster Beetle, also from 1986, launched almost side by side with the Blackfoot.
The Reuben debate is Omaha versus New York City, right?
Yeah.
Who invented the corned beef, Swiss, sauerkraut, Russian dressing on rye masterpiece.
Right. Both cities claim it, dating back to the early 20th century. Reuben Kulikovsky in Omaha, Arnold Reuben in NYC. That contested origin story fuels a lot of local pride. You know, ours is the original, the best.
And the sandwich itself feels a bit more substantial, maybe a bit more premium than a basic deli sandwich.
Definitely. It's a classic for a reason. And the Monster Beetle, also built on that same red ORV space frame chassis as the Blackfoot, but Tamiya clearly positioned it as a step up.
Oh, what made it more premium?
Two main things. First, it came standard with proper CVA oil-filled shock absorbers, much better suspension performance than the Blackfoot's friction dampers. Second, it had those cool gold-plated wheels, a bit of bling, and of course that iconic VW Beetle monster truck body.
So same bones, but better suspension, flashier wheels, a higher spec version.
Precisely. The oil shocks meant it handled rough ground and jumps way better, so it was the more refined, better performing, slightly more expensive option on the same platform. It's like the Reuben claiming superior heritage or ingredients compared to a simpler sandwich. The Monster Beetle offered superior performance on that shared chassis foundation.
Okay, one more in this category. The French dip and the car that started it all for this chassis, the Tamiya Frog from 1983.
Right, the originator of the ORV platform.
Yeah.
And both the French dip and the frog are kind of icons of accidental or unconventional innovation.
The French dip story is great. Two different LA restaurants, Cole's and Philippe's, both claim they invented it by accident.
Yeah, the stories vary slightly, but the core idea is that the defining feature dipping the roast beef sandwich in the ojess wasn't planned. Either someone dropped the bread roll in the roasting pan drippings by mistake, or a customer had sore gums and asked for the bread to be softened. Serendipity creates a classic.
So how was the Frog unconventional or accidental?
Well, it introduced that ORV space frame, which was a really innovative, lightweight design, but crucially, the Frog wasn't a scale model of a real vehicle. It was this abstract, almost insect-like buggy design, pure Tamiya imagination.
And its handling, was it perfect?
Not exactly. It had this unique suspension setup, double wishbones at the front, which was good, but trailing arms at the rear with the shocks mounted in a slightly weird way. It gave the Frog some definite handling quirks. It wasn't flawed exactly, but it was characterful.
But that quirky, unconventional design became the foundation for the Blackfoot and Monster Beetle.
Absolutely. That imperfect but innovative chassis blueprint was so successful it spawned those other huge hits. It created a whole new dominant category of 2WD off-road buggies and trucks.
So the lesson there is, sometimes innovation that comes from chance or an unusual design choice, even if it's not perfectly refined, can be way more influential than something technically perfect but boring.
Exactly. The accidental dip, the quirky chassis, both launched huge, lasting legacies. Okay, let's climb the ladder now. We're heading up to the peak. The Halo products. The aspirational technocrats.
Right, the statement pieces. These are the ones that were super expensive, incredibly complex, maybe pushed the boundaries of engineering or cooking, but weren't really practical for everyday use.
Precisely. They existed to inspire desire, to show what was possible, even if you couldn't afford one or eat one every day.
And our first pairing here is described as the ambitious, over-engineered masterpiece, The Monte Cristo sandwich and the Tamiya from 1988.
A perfect match in ambition, I think. The Monte Cristos. It's not just a sandwich, it's a whole production.
Yeah, it's based on the croque monsieur, the French grilled ham and cheese, but then it gets complicated.
Super complicated. Ham, turkey, Swiss cheese. Okay. But then the whole thing is dipped in egg batter, like French toast, and deep fried or pan fried, and then served with powdered sugar and jam or preserves. It's wild, savory and sweet colliding.
It's definitely not something you just whip up for lunch. It feels like a special occasion thing, something you'd specifically go out for. Like the one at Disneyland's Blue Bayou restaurant. It's famous. Needs skill to make it right, not just a greasy mess.
Totally. And the Tamiya Avante. That was Tamiya's absolute moonshot project in 1988, designed by a guy named Fumito Taki specifically to win the RC World Championships. Cost was basically no object. Engineering insanity.
What kind of crazy engineering are we talking about? Exotic materials?
Oh, yeah. The main chassis deck was FRP fiber-reinforced plastic, basically early carbon fiber, lots of aluminum suspension parts, even titanium screws to save every possible gram of weight.
Wow, and mechanically.
Mind-bendingly complex for the time. It had a mid-mounted motor for better balance, but the power went through belts and shafts to 3 separate differentials, front, center, and rear. This was supposed to give it perfect power distribution on any surface. Insanely intricate.
Okay, but here's the kicker, right? The Avante, despite all that tech, it kind of failed.
Commercially and competitively, yeah, it was a huge disappointment. It was incredibly expensive, so not many people bought it. And all those complex exotic parts, they turned out to be really fragile under racing conditions. It broke a lot. It didn't dominate the races like it was designed to.
So why is it still so revered if it was fragile and didn't win?
Because, like the Monte Cristo, it's a statement piece. It's admired for its sheer ambition, its beauty, its technical vision, more than its practicality or even its success.
Ah, so it's the dream, the concept that matters, the what if of engineering pushed to the limit.
Exactly. It represents Tamiya reaching for the stars, even if they didn't quite make it work perfectly. It's beautiful automotive sculpture, almost.
Okay, that ambition leads us to another peak, but maybe one defined more by sheer premium status and the cost of its core component.
Right, where the complexity and the price are the point. We're talking about the undisputed king of premium, the Lobster Roll, and the legendary Tamiya Bruiser from 1985.
The Lobster Roll. Simple concept, but it's all about that main ingredient. Lobster ain't cheap.
Exactly. It went from being like cheap fisherman's food way back when to this absolute luxury item. And the preparation is deliberately simple. Usually just lightly dressed with mayo, Maine style, or melted butter, Connecticut style, on a toasted bun. You keep it simple to let the expensive lobster meat shine. The premium price is its identity.
And the Tamiya Bruiser. How was that the ultimate premium RC? Was it about racing speed like the Avante?
No, the Bruiser wasn't about speed at all. It was about ultimate scale realism and mechanical complexity. It was Tamiya showing off their model-making prowess.
Scale realism-like. Metal parts again.
Oh, yeah. A heavy, incredibly detailed, all-metal ladder frame chassis, just like a real pickup truck. Metal axles, metal leaf springs. It was built like a tank and looked incredibly realistic. Huge, imposing.
But the real showstopper, the defining feature, was the gearbox, wasn't it?
Absolutely. The Bruiser is famous for its functional 3-speed transmission. You could actually shift gears using a third channel on your radio controller while driving.
Seriously? You could shift from low gear to high gear.
Yep. Low gear for crawling over obstacles with lots of torque, second gear for general driving, and third gear for higher speed cruising. That level of functional mechanical realism in a kit was just unheard of. It was an engineering masterpiece.
It must have cost a fortune.
Astronomical, the equivalent of over $800 back in 1985. Way out of reach for most people. It was the ultimate dream kit.
So they're both these cost is no object icons.
Yeah.
The Lobster Roll's value comes directly from the sheer amount of expensive lobster meat. The Bruiser's value comes from the sheer amount of complex, precision-engineered metal parts, especially that working 3-speed gearbox.
Perfectly put. They are the grails. Their status is intrinsically linked to the quality and cost of their core components. The Bruiser was Tamiya flexing its manufacturing muscles to the absolute max.
Okay, last segment. We're looking at the fusions. These are the true hybrids, right, where you mash together different cultures or different technologies or different design ideas to create something new and awesome.
Exactly. Taking the best bits from different worlds and synthesizing them into something unique and often globally iconic.
Our first fusion pairing explores that mix of design philosophies, the Bahn Mi sandwich and the Tamiya Bigwig from 1986.
A fantastic pairing. The Bahn Mi is literally a product of cultural fusion. You can taste the history.
French colonial history in Vietnam specifically. It takes the French contribution, the baguette, maybe some pâté, and combines it with vibrant Vietnamese flavors.
Right. Pickled daikon radish and carrots, fresh cilantro, spicy chilies, grilled meats. It's this incredible balance of textures and flavors that neither culture could have produced on its own. A perfect East meets West creation.
So how does the Bigwig represent a fusion? Was it mixing parts from different cars?
Not parts so much as concepts and design origins. Tamiya released the Bigwig for their 10th anniversary in RC cars. Underneath, it used the proven, successful, shaft-driven 4WD chassis developed for the Hotshot family reliable internal Tamiya engineering. But the outside was totally different.
How so?
They outsourced the body design. They hired a famous professional designer from the world of full-scale motorsport, Takuya Ura, known for his work in Formula One and with his company Mooncraft.
So bringing in an external pro designer, how did that change the look?
It gave the Bigwig this sleek, aerodynamic, almost futuristic look that was very different from Tamiya's usual, sometimes slightly toy-like in-house designs. It looked like a serious racing machine. And to complete that premium fusion feel, they included their top-of-the-line motor, the Technigold, as standard equipment.
So it fused Tamiya's proven mechanics with high-end external design flair and a top-tier motor.
Exactly. The Bahn Mi works because it creates something new and delicious from combining distinct culinary traditions. The Bigwig became iconic because combining Tamiya's engineering with Ura's professional motorsport aesthetic and the best motor made it look and feel completely different, more sophisticated than anything else Tamiya had done. Innovation at the intersection.
That's a great example. Okay, our final pairing. This one focuses on structural innovation, how changing the fundamental architecture of something can redefine it.
Right. We're pairing the club sandwich with the Tamiya Hotshot from 1985.
The club sandwich originated in fancy gentlemen's clubs in the late 1800s,
Yeah.
supposedly. And its key feature is that structure, isn't it? The layers.
Absolutely. That double-decker design, using 3 slices of bread, wasn't just for show. It was a structural solution to make a more substantial, impressive sandwich, a meal in itself for the club members. The architecture served a purpose.
Okay, so the Hotshot. What was its structural innovation? It was Tamiya's first 4WD buggy.
Their first shaft-driven 4WD buggy, yeah, which was a big deal. And its structure was completely radical for Tamiya at the time. It used what they called a monocoque chassis, basically. The chassis tub itself is the main structure, like an aircraft fuselage. It was made of 3 main pieces bolted together, very strong, very contained.
But the really unique structural thing was the suspension, wasn't it? The monoshock.
Yes, that was the Hotshot's visual and mechanical signature. Instead of having 2 shock absorbers per axle, like almost every other RC car then and now, it had just 1 shock absorber mounted horizontally low down in the chassis for both the front wheels and another single one for the rear wheels.
How did that even work?
Through a complex system of pushrods and bell cranks connecting the suspension arms to that single central shock, it was mechanically intricate but allowed for a very low profile, protected the shocks, and helped centralize the weight. Highly unconventional architecture.
So for both the club and the Hotshot, the structure itself was the innovation. Driven by a need, the club needed to be substantial, so triple-decker. The Hotshot needed cutting-edge 4WD performance and durability, so monocoque chassis and monoshock suspension.
Perfectly summarized. In both cases, that novel physical architecture wasn't just a gimmick. It was a functional response to a specific requirement. And both structures, the triple-decker sandwich and the shaft-driven monoshock buggy, became incredibly influential blueprints for things that followed.
Wow. Okay, so looking back across all these pairs, from the basic PB&J and Sand Scorcher right up to Lobster Roll and the Bruiser, you really do see these patterns emerge, don't you?
You really do. The journey from something being a novelty to becoming a mass-market staple. We saw that with the PB&J and the Sand Scorcher kickstarting its category.
Yeah, and the absolute need for that easy entry point, like the grilled cheese and the grasshopper, to get people hooked.
Then there's that power of subtle variations creating fierce loyalty, like the Cuban versus the Blackfoot or the Reuben versus the Monster Beetle, all based on that same core idea or platform.
And finally, the ambition of those halo products. The Monte Cristo, the Avante, the Lobster Roll, the Bruiser, the things designed to make you dream, even if they weren't practical.
Ultimately, I think what makes all these things, sandwiches and RC cars, so enduring isn't just what they're made of, it's how they connect to us.
Yeah, they become these tangible links, right? To memories, maybe to where you grew up, or just to that feeling of satisfaction you get from making something or mastering something,
Yeah.
whether it's assembling that intricate bruiser gearbox or just making a really perfect BLT.
It's craft, applied to food, applied to machines. And they all perfectly captured something about the time they were created in mass production, global influences, the rise of hobbies, the push for performance. They're artifacts of the 20th century in a way.
Which leads to a final thought, some for you, the listener, to maybe ponder.
Yeah.
If these iconic pairings we've talked about got their status by reflecting the big shifts of their time,
Mm-hmm.
what emerging sandwich and what emerging type of RC vehicle might be capturing the essence of our current moment? What pairing will people look back on in, say, 20 years as the defining icons of this era?
That's a great question. Maybe something that embodies the tension we see everywhere now between incredible digital complexity, AI-driven design maybe, and this counter trend towards handmade, sustainable, locally sourced things, or maybe even 3D printed components versus artisanal bread.
Exactly. What sandwich and what RC car best represent that tension? Keep an eye out. The next generation of icons might be forming right now.